when they were only targeting junior doctors officially, they said that we were scaremongering to say that it was going to spread to every section of the NHS. And if you take all healthcare workers out of hospital, then people die. That's the trouble.
Yeah, two huge areas, and I'll have to skim through the first one a bit, I think, but it is a very important one, which is one thing I'd say is that I think we'll always have impairments with us as a society for all sorts of reasons. Vast numbers of impairment, vast numbers of disabling conditions are created. The biggest cause of visual impairment in the world today is poverty. The biggest cause of severe mental health crisis around the world today is warfare and the terror of war, as we're seeing being visited on places like Syria, Iraq and Iran. The biggest cause of trauma created physical conditions and amputation and is war. This is created by capitalism. And in the workplace, disabled people are discriminated precisely for a different reason, different form, which is that we're seen as unproductive and we're pushed down. So there's a quick, they're hugely important issues that are related to the challenges that we've got to look at, and understanding where they stem from, and understanding because you've got to understand where they come from, what we're going to confront, and what we're going to deal with. In terms of the issue of the trade unions, I mean, Deepak has been absolutely clear about this. We stand alongside every trade unionist in every struggle that there's been, and we want to see more of it. But we're clear as well that we've been very disappointed. I'm a unison member myself in social care. We've been very disappointed with the leadership of the big three trade unions, GMB, Unite and Unison. We've heard a lot of rhetoric. From Len McCluskey, he's willing to go out there, he's willing to be arrested, and then we don't hear from him again. We're the ones out there on the front line fighting. And it's a challenge we've got to face. Do we want them with us? We don't want to be opposed to them. We don't want to be fighting with them. And we know their members want to see more as well. We've got to see the two things going on together. The social campaigns, the community campaigns that we're seeing going on with groups like Deepak and others. But we've got to have a serious fight back on the industrial front. And where we've had it, we've seen the support that it's had, and there's no better example of that than the junior doctors who have faced such vitriol from the government about their selfishness, about that they're putting patients at risk of dying, but public support has held out for them throughout. And we've got to continue that pressure on the trade unions to step up to the mark, put the money where the mouth is and call their members out. We saw the potential of that back in 2011 with the pension strike, with 2 million workers out on the street. I was on that demonstration. The last thing people were talking about was pensions. They were talking about austerity. They were talking about cuts in the NHS. They were talking about privatisation. They were talking about capitalism. We need to see more than that, and we'll be putting our efforts to do that. And so whenever we do get that support and encouragement from the trade unions, we'll be right behind them, cheering them on, alongside them all the way.
We will wrap this up in a second, but I just wanted to give everyone another opportunity. Frank?
On the previous Labour government, they were going to introduce doctors and nurses who were in force medical treatments on people who were involved in substance misuse. The coalition decided not to go ahead with that. It implied it was the Liberals who stopped it. But under the current Tories, their intention is to introduce a work and health programme, which by definition requires the collusion of the medical profession and health workers. So in a sense, it's a question for both of you to say, with your joint work together or campaigning, do you think that would have an effect on that work and health programme? Because there's definitely, that's the Tories' agenda, is to bring those two things together in terms of people's welfare rights. It's going to, the health profession is going to be colluding with the Tories for it to be effective from their point of view.
Absolutely. No, I remember that. You too on that one. No, from the last one, have you got any responses to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge one. I'll try and get to grips with it. It does for us. It goes back to the last Labour government. It goes back to the Blair Labour government. The war on welfare started then. The rhetoric that Blair came out with of benefit dependency. You remember his attacks on young people in Aspa. You know, all of this started then. When the Tories came in, they just pressed the accelerator to the floor and took it onto a whole new level. But it started for us way back then. And it's an ideology. Gordon Brown was the person who brought in Atos. Atos, the company that was taken through the work capability assessment. Their parent company is UNA, an American company that was based in the insurance industry. It's the key issues behind this is ideological in the mental health profession. It's centred in Cardiff University, where it's a model, I know this is technical, but it's important, it's called the biopsychosocial model. And it's changing the way that mental health is looked at to essentially place the responsibility on the individual. This is gross simplification of it, but it basically says that problems with you, if you get over your issues, if you get over the problem, get out there, get some work, do some work, you feel much better, everything will be okay. It's kind of that, and that's what's behind the whole ideology. They're not just in mental health, but they're pushing right across, and it's about the individualisation and then putting the responsibility on the individual to overcome all those barriers. Whereas the real problems for disabled people are the economic and the social barriers that are put in place for historical reasons, and that's the threat that's going through this, and it's something that came about under neoliberalism. So the optimism now is in the change that we're seeing within the Labour Party and under Corbynism, that we can hope to begin to have this dialogue of seeing that whole ideology push back, because it's also what goes out into all of the areas of concern that you've been talking about here today, which while they're very, very, massively attacking us under the Tories, a lot of them were there under a Blairite Labour government before, and we've still got to tackle that issue, and that's what lies with the Corbyn issue at the moment. But that's kind of a quick answer to that.
Very much, Nadia.
And I would say that what the Junior Doctors Contract Dispute has done is it has raised a huge awareness within doctors of the social issues and given us more power, and what the government has seen is that we don't just do what they say. We will fight if we don't believe what is being imposed on us is against our patients' interest. Our goal is patient care, that is not the government's goal. So I'm not worried that we're going to suddenly be running, this. I don't believe we're going to become like some kind of state enforcers, I think they might just hire private doctors to do that, to be honest. They're already doing that with work and pensions. They're advertising these jobs for kind of £90,000 for getting people back to work, and they were doing that at the exact same time they were vilifying us for asking for fair working conditions. So I think that, the BMA is much stronger now, the union presence is much greater, and that doctors have more awareness and more appetite for activism than I said. I'm not worried about it.
And just quickly say, I think Nadia's absolutely right. It's a hugely important point, actually. And it is, they're having to try and privatise that. But we can show we can fight back against it, because Atos have still got the contract for some of the cuts that are going through, and they still can't recruit. Their name's toxic. So these huge salaries that Nadia's talking about, that they're trying to put in, they don't get it all that way, because we can show those companies up to what they are. And we can make it impossible for them to work in the area through our own actions and by building campaigns to stop them, because it's going through into the workplace. The people in my workplace now, if I go off sick, it's Atos. It's a parent company, a subsidiary of Atos, who are doing the work capability assessment for me in the workplace. So that I then lose my job in the way you were describing, only to be re-interviewed in the welfare process using the same methodology, the privatised methodology for the privatised company, with this time Maximus, who will then find me fit for work and up for being sanctioned. And so it's exactly right. It's the privatisation is what behind it. It's not the professionals, and we don't want to. So we're absolutely clear.
And I just want to reassure you as well that the ethos of most doctors is, when we saw these jobs advertised, we all said, we should take these jobs, and then say everybody isn't fit to work. The government, nobody was thinking anything else.
Absolutely.
Subversion.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, we're gonna end there. I have to say, I didn't know until about a couple of hours ago that I was chairing anything. There's no democracy here whatsoever, but how proud I am to have chaired the last session. I think this is what Ruskin's about, isn't it? I think if people can only come and hear, even if it's just the last two speakers, Nadia and Roger, then I just know from the work that we do, even outside of Ruskin, in terms of raising people's consciousness. Just hearing that other people can and do resist is so important to give you the hope that you can do it yourself. So on that spirit, can I thank Nadia and Roger again? Can I also thank Colin, who's actually, whose idea it was for the political strip. Thank you very much. It's a testament to yourself, also yourselves on a Saturday when you could be out drinking or whatever you do on a Saturday, that you're still here at 7:15. We are going to ask for, if there is any spare change at the end of the day, just to help a couple of colleagues with travel home, so we're going to run a box, I think, or something. But what I'm going to do is ask Colin just for a few final words, just to bring the whole proceedings together.
Okay, I know it's late and it's gone on, but I just want to thank everybody for coming along today. I think it's been a very, very successful day. I mean, our thought at the start of this was that we want to re-establish that tradition of Muslim political schools to be a regular occurrence.